Memberships are now live on this channel. Click the link in the description box to sign up to receive access to exclusive content and
To
perks.
Mariah today, she's like, man, she said she feel better from talking to you. You got her in her feelings, man. No, I'm just saying she loves you, man.
Oh, for sure.
Like overly.
Yeah, like too much. Sometimes too much.
What? Like it scares you how much?
Yeah. Because it's like, damn, if I do something, if I smack something or something like that, you probably be devastated. And that's the part that I don't like when it's like you too deep. But I'm in love with her. For the most part, I ain't even been calling no other girl. I ain't called no other girl in like a week.
I want you. I didn't mean to say that. I didn't mean it. I swear.
Really?
And I usually
You know-
call at least 10 girls every time I get on the phone just to kill time.
You know, a lot of girls hit me up. The Asian hit me up. What was the girl with the freckles? Remember her?
Yeah, Latasha.
Yeah, she hit me up.
Look, when I come out tonight, I'm gonna call. So I want you to text her and tell her.
Yeah, what? You know, Wham hit me the other day. He wants to talk to you too.
Who?
Wham.
All right, I got a couple actually. I got a couple.
What you pulling out the phone for?
Oh, this is just my man. He's calling.
Oh, you gotta answer that.
It's okay. He, me and my man, we really locked in. He'll just sit here and listen to my convo, but I gotta, I gotta wait. I gotta click the 0 and all that good stuff.
Okay, yeah. Do you?
This is ghetto. This is so ghetto. I'm so sorry, lady. Anyways, my question was,
It's so funny that
I
you
got my man on my phone case. If you want to zoom in on that, this is my favorite pic of him.
Period. Everybody got their favorite pick of their man.
Hello, Jeffrey.
What's your favorite pick? Go ahead.
I was just
They want to see that
telling them
man.
I always hit the phone
I
up
do
when
got
you
my
call
favorite
me.
picture though, but
I can't wait to see you with this
But,
man outside.
yes.
girl,
Okay.
I don't know.
Love you. All right, bye-bye.
That's my man, my
I'm
man, my
just
man, my
ready
man.
to disappear
Okay.
with my baby and my man.
So as you saw in the clips, some videos were leaked from prison where Young Thug is currently serving time, of a conversation that he had with a friend saying that, number one, Mariah, and he kind of, by the tone of his voice and just his attitude, it sounds as if he's kind of turned off by the fact that she is so affectionate and loving towards him. And it was also exposed that he was cheating on her with multiple women. And you also saw in one of the clips one of the women that was also crying and crashing out over some conversation that she was having with him. And then in the other clip, you saw where Mariah was willing to pause a podcast interview to accept his call from prison. And, you can see how her body language, she was super giddy, super happy to be talking to him. She even had a photo of him on her phone case. So you can already immediately see the difference between the two dynamics in these individuals. One is kind of completely just shut off from the other and kind of just has the other person in their life as a convenience, and the other is super invested in that relationship. This behavior that we see in Mariah is the effect of fatherlessness, or simply just not having a father in your life who is emotionally available. And some of you may say, oh, well, Young Thug, maybe he's just shy and, he bought her gifts and he sent her jewelry for Christmas and, so he clearly obviously likes her. And it's like, first of all, when you're a man with means, purchasing a little bracelet or whatever is nothing. So obviously, he's going to make that small non-investment to sort of keep her around. But the true marker that a man is interested in you is by his body language and the way that he responds to you, even without you having to do anything. If a man prioritizes you, makes an effort to have communication with you, doesn't cheat on you, then, there's a very high likelihood that he is interested in being in a relationship with you. But if he has the type of attitude that Young Thug has, it's safe to say that he is not interested in you. And it has nothing to do with you as an individual. and everything to do with him. As you can see, Mariah is a very beautiful woman. She is gorgeous. She's like, she has the body, she has the looks, she has the talent. Like, she's 10 out of 10, and you can clearly tell that she is loyal. This is the type of person that these red pill losers will tell you that you should go after. Yet, despite her having all of these characteristics, it is not good enough for Young Thug, because that is not what Young Thug wants. Who knows what Young Thug wants? To be honest, some people say that Young Thug wants another man, and that's probably true for a lot of these rappers. But that's a different topic for a different video. But if you find yourself in a situation like this, you shouldn't try to jump through hoops trying to figure out what you can do to impress the man. Because again, you could be the total package. If he does not want that total package in you, then it doesn't matter what you say or do. It will not be good enough because he simply does not want you. And that's okay. The objective should be that you show up as your complete and full authentic self, but only provide these attributes to a man who is equally or even more so invested in being in a relationship with you. And as an aside, Mariah could honestly take a lesson in learning how to decenter men, because she's obviously made this man her entire existence. Yeah, you know, she's focusing on her career, and I think that's amazing, but she has a very, very strong emotional connection to this guy. And it's pretty clear even from his body language, even if she didn't know that he was being unfaithful to her, from his body language alone, you can tell that he's not interested. You could say again, oh, you know, he's in jail and blah, blah, blah. But the body language that he had with his friend, his male friend, when they were on the phone was very different from the body language that he had with Mariah. So learning how to decenter men and prioritizing yourself, prioritizing your needs. And if you do want to be in a relationship with a man, learning how to only grant emotional access to men who have demonstrated that they are interested in you and are therefore worthy of your time, energy, attention, etc. Anything that does not fall within your standards, anything that is less than the bare minimum, at the very least, you shouldn't even engage with that. You allow other people to deal with that, or allow him to go and find what he actually is looking for. And again, for a lot of women, you know, they say, oh, you know, these men, they don't treat women well, and they go from woman to woman, total package to total package, and they're never good enough. And that's because a lot of these guys do not want to be with you. They want to be with other men. I've spoken about this in a previous video. The reason why a lot of these men embarrass you, clown you, abuse you physically, set you up, steal from you, whatever, the reason why they mistreat you in a nutshell is because they do not actually like you, and they therefore resent you. And they're treating you this way because they resent you. And instead of them being honest about who they really want to be with, they kind of force themselves to be subdued to the status quo, to kind of comply with what society tells them that they should strive for and desire. And they take out that frustration on you through ill treatment instead of being honest about the fact that they want to be with men. But I digress. No woman should ever date a man who is in jail. I honestly thought that that would go without saying, but you know, shows like Love After Lockup exist and are on multiple seasons because there are many women who, number one, date these men, and number women who can relate to the women in the shows who date men in jail. Mariah, of course, is an example of this. But if a man is capable of committing a crime, he's capable of causing you harm in some way. And that should be a turnoff, and that should be a turnoff from, first of all, not even getting into a relationship with him. But if he goes to jail after being in a relationship with you, like during the relationship, you know, that should be grounds to end it immediately. This ghetto, holding it down, locked in culture that exists in the Black community needs to end, because you'll only end up being embarrassed the way that Young Thug has embarrassed Mariah. And you better believe that if the tables were turned, Young Thug would definitely not do the same for Mariah. He'd probably kick her to the curb, say, You see, like, that's what you can't trust black women and black women are dishonest. You know, the usual talking points that black men make about black women to try to disparage our image. A lot of beautiful women, including exoticals of various shades. And if you were wondering, because this brain dead question comes up quite a bit, Mariah identifies as a black woman. Obviously, she's fair skinned, but she has said in multiple videos that she has two black parents, and so she's therefore a black exotical. Moving on. A lot of beautiful women of various shades, whether exotical or not, they fall into the trap where they give themselves away to men who are literally beneath them in hopes that they'll receive the same amount of love and respect in return. And I recently did a live on this where I spoke about Whitney Houston, and we saw that she didn't get what she was hoping for with Bobby, despite her literally bending over backwards to earn his love and respect. And honestly, this behavior is a result of not being affirmed by a strong father figure. Even if your father is in your life growing up, if he wasn't actively affirming you and was emotionally unavailable for the most part, this can honestly be worse than having a father who was not in your life physically or not in the home physically, even if that father provided for you. Because many women with this experience end up working overtime to try to win the affection of men who look like or behave like their fathers, or for the simple fact that they share a gender with their father. Because these women subconsciously want the validation from these men that they didn't receive from their father, even if they privately or outwardly hate their fathers for not being active or available. And so they seek it again from the men who share characteristics to their father. And I try to find some information on Mariah's father. She would kind of just like reference that both of her parents are black, but then she would just continue to talk about her mom exclusively. So that lets me know that her father, either he wasn't in the home, or if he wasn't as present emotionally as he should have been. I don't know if he's still alive, but even if he still is alive, it's clear that they don't have that close relationship. And if he wasn't alive when he was growing up, again, the same thing applies. She clearly didn't have a father figure to kind of fill that role and affirm her, especially during her developmental years growing up as a child. We see similar behavior with people like Doja Cat and Brittany Renner, where they kind of like lash out and do outlandish things to kind of get a reaction from people. They're mainly trying to get a reaction from men. They want men to see them. Brittany Renner, she's converted to Islam, so she's no longer like that. But in the past, she would kind of be hypersexual for men to see, or she would talk about how dumb rappers are while still continuing to engage in relationships with them so that she could get that attention from them. And then same with Doja Cat. And we know that Doja Cat, for example, had a fractured relationship with her father. It's no secret, like he was not present for her growing up. And so things as simple as her like shaving off her hair and her eyebrows, she did that again to get a reaction from viewers and maybe even a reaction from her dad, because it seems as if he kind of keeps abreast with her success and like what's going on in her life from what is reported in the media. Both of these women have calmed down recently, but their behavior in the past was honestly a cry for help. It again was a cry for, I know that I'm going to get backlash, and I know that I'm not going to get the love that I should have received from my father growing up, but getting any attention, especially from men, is better than getting no attention. And it's kind of trying to feed that insatiable hunger that exists when you didn't have your father figure kind of present in your life. And I'm speaking about women in particular. Some of you may say, oh, well, men go through the same thing, blah, blah, blah. This channel is not geared towards men, so I don't talk about the male perspective if it doesn't relate to the woman's perspective. Psychologist Carl Jung explains this behavior as the Electra complex, where a daughter's relationship with her father is important for her psychosexual development. And Carl Jung's theories, especially this one, have been seen to be controversial, and some people have tried to debunk it. But for the most part, the Electra complex is where a young girl's attraction to the parent of the opposite sex during the phallic stage of her development, so that's in the earlier parts of her childhood, and the opposite gender obviously would be the father, creates the psychosexual development where the daughter develops a sense of competition with her mother for her father's affection. And obviously, it's not going to be that extreme the way that Carl Jung described it, but young children, and in this case, girls, desire to have validation from their fathers. And so, that's why like the term like daddy's girl comes about, where young girls will base their perception of reality in life based on how their fathers treated them. They work for their father's validation and their father's approval. And psychologist Sigmund Freud believed that children experience the majority of their development in their sexual identity. And when I say sexual identity in this case, it doesn't mean like intercourse, it means how you form relationships and opinions with the opposite gender. But they form the majority of this development between the ages of 3 and 5 years old, meaning that in this case, women form their sexual identities and how they perceive men primarily during their childhood, and then again later on during puberty. And this is based upon the kind of relationship, again, that I mentioned before, that they had with their fathers, because their father is their first male interaction. So it's natural that a woman is going to base her perception of men based on how her father treated her, because he was the first and probably constant male interaction that she had. And if a woman did not receive validation from her father, this often leads to promiscuity, large distrust of men or hatred towards men, or an anxious attachment style if she is in a relationship with a man. And on the other hand, women who were treated like princesses by their fathers, they never behave like this.
Are you them called Pocahontas? My God, Cinderella's.
Pocahontas.
My gosh, yeah.
Yes.
What the other one we're
like,
looking at it on her name?
Huh?
What do you want to...
Rapunzel.
Rapunzel. Yeah,
Thank
very
you.
Rapunzel-esque.
Let down her hair.
Shut your...
Let it down.
Shut your... Tell
Thank
them.
you.
Tell them again.
Tell it.
All right.
And they better what?
Huh? Clock that.
Clock it.
And as you can see in the clip that I just played, this woman obviously, like, she had an interaction with her father where he was gassing up her looks and telling her that she looks good. And this interaction didn't look forced, it looked very natural. So it looks like this is something that she probably experienced her entire life, from her childhood all the way up to present day. And women like this, including women like Lori Harvey, Ivanka Trump, they never behave like what we saw with Mariah and Whitney Houston, Doja Cat, etc. They never behave like this because they received positive reinforcements from their first male encounters, again, which would be their fathers, at an early age. And not only did they receive this at an early age, but they received this constant affirmation and validation throughout their life, which is important because, again, we go through different stages of psychosexual development along with other parts of our development as an individual, as a human being. And so when you go through different stages of development, you go through different stages of challenges, especially during puberty. Like, we all know how puberty works. You have a kind of heightened and newfound awareness of the opposite gender, and that can be very complicated. And if you have a positive male figure in your life to affirm you and let you know that your value is not based on how the other sees you, you do not need the other to validate your worth because you are worthy in and of yourself, then, you're kind of going to go through life the way that this young lady did in this previous clip, saying like, I'm that girl. Like, I don't need you to tell me that I'm that girl. And women like this are very quick to walk away from situations that no longer serve them and that are not favorable. People make jokes about Lori Harvey and, they make assumptions and spread rumors and say that she sleeps around. But people only say that because she doesn't stick around in a relationship that no longer serves her. Lori Harvey is in her 20s. She's still young enough, and she's smart enough to not stick around in a relationship just because she wants to check off a social checkbox of, oh, I'm married by this age, I have a family by this age, I have a man who, especially if he's a black man, I was able to maintain that relationship. Lori said, no, I'm not going to stay through the ringer in these relationships. I'm going to test the waters and see what I like. And testing the waters, by the way, doesn't mean that she's sleeping with all of them. So people need to stop projecting and assuming that Lori sleeps with everyone. And even if she does, that's nobody's business. Focus on yourself. She's smart enough to have not allowed these men to make her a baby mom. And she's trying to find what works for her and what fits for her. I don't think she'll find that in the pool of men that she's dated. But anyway, women like her have been affirmed by her father figure, Steve Harvey. Steve Harvey is not her biological father, but he still stepped in and played that father figure role of affirming her and telling her that, she's worthy and deserving of love and that she should never settle. And you see this in when Steve Harvey had his show. He would offer the same type of advice to women who would come on his show and ask him questions. And I mentioned Ivanka Trump because you see how Donald Trump raves over her. Like, she is clearly his favorite child. He loves her. Some people say that the way that he describes her is inappropriate, but outside of that, you can obviously tell that he has told Ivanka that she is worthy and deserving of anything, that she should reach for the stars, that she looks good. Like, women, being told that you look good, that you're beautiful is important. To hear that from your father or your father figure is important because, let's face it, women are valued socially for how we look. We're not so much valued for how much money we have in the bank. We are valued primarily for if we are beautiful. And so if you've kind of gone through your entire life not hearing that you're beautiful, you are going to first of all question that. And then secondly, you're going to try to find that validation through affection from men or what you think is affection. And sometimes that manifests as unhealthy sexual relationships with multiple male partners. And you think like, oh yeah, these men are attracted to my body. And it's like, they may be attracted to your body, but they are not attracted to the essence of who you are. So having positive male role models like Donald Trump, despite what people think about him, like Steve Harvey, to tell you, no, you're that girl. You should center yourself and put yourself first. You should live life based on your own moral compass, based on your own values, and you should only entertain men who fall in line with that. That is very important because then again, it will prevent you from attracting predatory behavior, predators, losers, men who want to take advantage of you, and you have a higher chance of getting in relationships with men who are of high quality, men who have good moral standings, men who have good values. Oftentimes that means a good family structure. And, if he doesn't see that with you, he's not going to waste your time and make you a baby mom. He's going to just move on and not exploit you, essentially. This is also why predators and losers in general avoid children and women who have a strong male presence in their life, because they know that these women and girls are not easily fooled or impressed because they have a strong male figure in their life. And trigger warning, I'm just going to play a really quick clip about a child PEDO that pretty much confirmed what I said here, the type of things that he would look for in his victims before making his move.
Were there certain characteristics that you looked for in children before them?
In children, yes, but more I also looked at their families. If I thought the father was a threat, I would not approach the child.
So as you saw in that clip, he very outwardly said that he would look at the child's family dynamic, and if he thought that the father was a threat, he wouldn't even bother to approach that child. And he's probably talking about male and female children, but this type of mentality also applies to women and girls, especially girls in high school. You'd be surprised by the type of losers that exist, grown men that think that it's okay to target teenagers. As a matter of fact, when I think back on my life, the majority of catcalling that I received happened when I was in high school. And this was by like grown men from like their 20s all the way up to 30 plus. And it didn't happen as much when I was older because as I got older, I gained more of a sense of awareness. I kind of put on like this don't F with me type of vibe. But the same thing applies here. Like these men will scope out women that they can embarrass, abuse, waste their time. And if they know that you have a positive male role model in your life, father figure, they are less likely to approach you because they see that man as a threat. They see that powerful, strong masculinity as a threat, which is why it's so important to have father figures in your life. And obviously, you cannot control the type of family dynamic that you're born into. Unfortunately, especially in the Black community, there is a big issue with absentee fathers. And so that's why the responsibility, despite the efforts of your mom, she may have been very involved and present, but if you didn't have the satisfaction of maybe having a grandfather, an older brother, an uncle, or whoever to sort of give you that male protection, at some point the responsibility lies on you where you need to be privy to and aware of the type of tricks and the type of tricks that these men play and who they target so that you can protect yourself and not end up abused and embarrassed by men who specifically want to abuse and embarrass women and girls. I noticed that with Red Pill Losers, they try to clown daddy's girls, girls who pretty much had a positive father figure in their life. They try to use that as an insult and label them as having impossible standards, as if having a father figure in your life is a negative thing, but then they'll turn around and call you fatherless and say, oh, she got daddy issues and don't mess with these type of girls who have daddy issues, but that's exactly who they want. They want girls who have had a fractured relationship with their father, or maybe their father wasn't present, because in their minds, these women tend to present more outwardly with trauma from those experiences, no fault of their own, of course. And so they want to take advantage of that because in their mind, you having trauma makes you low-hanging fruit, easy to access, easy to manipulate, easy to use and abuse. By the way, they use this insult as a way to try to chip at your ego to get them down to their level. If you are a daddy's girl or you had a positive father figure in your life, don't fall for that. That is not anything to be ashamed of. You should be proud and feel honored that you had someone in your life to affirm you. And ultimately, they hate that they can't have access to these type of women because they realize that these women are out of their league. These women tend to be more emotionally mature. And again, this does not apply to every woman who's had a father in their life or who has not had a father in their life, but women who had an active father figure, they tend to, in general, be more emotionally mature. They tend to have less trauma because they were not traumatized by their fathers. And so these men think that, they're out of my league. I want to humble them. I want to get access to these women. But instead of me doing the inner work to become a better man so that we can be compatible, I'd much rather gripe and complain and try to tear at her self-esteem instead. So if you did not have your dad in your life, or maybe your father was in the home but he was always busy, or maybe he was just a straight up a-hole and he was just emotionally unavailable, father yourself by affirming yourself. Do the inner work to get better. And again, this relates to shadow work, so maybe that means writing down the areas in your life where you feel inadequate and where you feel like that could potentially stem from your father. So maybe you do not think that you deserve to be in a relationship with one man. Maybe you think that all you'll ever get and all that you're ever good enough for is a polyamorous relationship. And I mention that because polygamy seems to be a growing trend in the Black community. Black women seem to be more convinced that, it's better for them to settle for a relationship with one Black man who has multiple women than to either just decenter men completely or date outside of their race, date other eligible bachelors outside of their race. Don't fall for that okie doke. That is just another triangulation tactic that is used by the Black community to make sure that Black women receive less than what they deserve. Okay, you are not of lesser value than any other race of women. You know, you could say, oh, well, Arab women are in multiple relationships. Well, Arab women, for the most part, they follow Islam, and Islam says that all of those women should be treated equally, and that a man should only have more than one wife, up to 4 wives, if he's able to afford it. And we know that the average Black man is not able to afford even his own living expenses, so you cannot make that comparison, okay? You are worthy and deserving of respect. You are deserving of not being embarrassed publicly the way that Young Thug has embarrassed Mariah, the way that Bobby Brown embarrassed Whitney Houston. You are worthy and deserving of love. And if you cannot see that right now, you need to hold off from relationships altogether, and you need to focus on yourself. You need to do the inner work of healing, go and speak to a therapist. Again, write down the aspects of your life where you think that you are unworthy, and then take note of those aspects where you think they could be related to your relationship with your father, and work to undo it. Start to believe, tell yourself until you believe it, that you are worthy of love and respect, that the way that your father treated you is not a reflection of your worth, that's a reflection of him as an individual. And over time, you will notice that you begin to only align with those things that are good, those things that reflect that you are worthy, and you will start to be turned off by things like polygamy, by men who have a criminal record, by men who are in jail. You're going to be like, ew, no, you're in jail, okay, bye. I'm not sticking around, especially in my best years, my fertile years, sticking around for you while you serve that ghetto ass prison sentence. No way. I'm moving on. I'm going to focus on my career, myself, or I'm just going to start a relationship with a new man. And if you are a Black woman listening, don't announce your plans to heal to the world, especially to the Black community, because the Black community, as I mentioned before, does not care about your well-being and will do everything in their power to keep you down, especially if you are in a relationship with a Black man. They will say that they'll try to convince you that it's your duty to stay by him, and, you know, the system has beat him up and he shouldn't have to be beat down by his woman. You are not responsible for anyone else's outcome in life. Let that man do the work by himself, because as I said before, if the tables were turned, he would definitely kick you to the curb and focus on himself. All right, thank you so much for listening. Let me know what you think about this one down below in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.